Hello! Hold on, I have to get down from here. Thanks everyone for coming. We'll get started with the live stream right at the top of the hour. In the meantime, if you have any questions, now would be a great time to ask. So let's see who's here first. Welcome, welcome. Manu, Anakin, Dream, Cosma. Hey, Cosma. Russell. Joe Jose Razo. Thank you. Keith. Pamela. Nice. R-I-S-G. Parachan. I am Ben. Anna. Ayani. Welcome. Annyeonghaseyo as well from a shell out. Ayani asks, have you done a video or live stream on the common words for always? 항상. There you go. I mean, I've taught them before in live streams, but that's the only one you want. If you're asking this question, the only one you want is 항상. There are a few other ones. The most common one I come out 늘, 항시. Like there are a few others like that, like, you know, specific use cases ones. But if you're wondering, how do I say always? The answer to your question is use 항상. Let's see. Where is everyone watching from today? Where is you? Tell me, where is you? Put it in the chat. One person already let me know. Pamela said they are watching from the Southern Highlands of Scotland. I think that's how you pronounce it. Flo, hey Flo, says, I can't stick around as I have a basketball game to go to. Okay, good luck in that. Hopefully you score lots of points. But I wanted to say I'm going through a big review with my Korean tutor. Nice. And your study notebook pages were really helping. Okay, that's cool. Yeah, I'm glad someone's using it. I put a lot of work into those. Welcome, welcome. How do Koreans handwrite the double piup? That's a good question. The sangbiup. I mean, there's an official way. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the official stroke order, which you would do like that if you do a stroke. But the actual handwriting way can be a few different ways. Some people I see do it like this. That's how I do it. 1, 2. If you have 2, normally you're supposed to do it like this. But it's common that they get combined into 1 like that. Or do the double thing, the same thing that you do here, but do it with an extra line in the middle, and then you do that. That's one way to do it. Whatever you feel comfortable with. Some people do it like this. I've seen, I mean, you could do it like that, but like that is how some people also do the B-up. I don't know, I just think it looks kind of messy when you do that. Oh, it's okay. It's not bad if you do you do this and then that and then it's not bad. I think it just ends up making the letter look a bit unbalanced. And even in Korean, native Korean handwriting who use this sort of the U shape, it looks a bit unbalanced. It makes it look really large on the syllable, and not in necessarily a cute way, but just in kind of an unbalanced way. So if you want that to look nice, you'll also have to balance it by doing other strokes in a smooth way too. Like instead of this for the kiok, maybe you do like you know, like a smooth one. If you balance it out, you can make it into a font. But I recommend just doing it this way, the way I do it, if you want to do it quickly. And if you want to do it more accurately, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, like that. Hopefully that helps. Now my board is covered with P-up. You never want that. You never want P-up all over the board. Let's see where is watching from who. London, Dominican Republic, Oklahoma, Louisiana, IBs in LA. Me also. Yeah. Me also be in LA. I'm from Virginia, Ghana, Barcelona. I mean, Barcelona, right? I think that's how you're supposed to say it. Barcelona with like a, I can't say it. I've never been there. I can never go there. I'm banned. If you go there, there's actually a picture of me on the wall. Like, don't let this fool into our country. He can't say the name of our city correctly. California, Italy. You wrote it in all caps, so I had to say it in all caps. Cosma says, I know you like Anki, But for me, it's pretty boring. Oh, I didn't say it's not boring. I mean, I do like it, but I never said it was exciting. If I just read a lot of texts and search every word, is that enough? If you are reading a variety of content, yes. If you're reading like content that comes from the same source, then the number of words you're going to encounter it's not really gonna be that varied. You're just gonna keep getting the same words over and over again. So if you're doing like an hour of that a day, well, in the beginning, it's gonna be very helpful. But then after you start seeing most of the words over and over again, it's not so helpful anymore. So you get diminishing returns with that sort of thing. And the same goes for listening practice. If you're only listening to the same show every day, in the beginning, you're getting a lot out of it. But the more you watch that show, whether it's YouTube or a TV show, you get less and less out of it over time. So I recommend switching things up. But if your question is just on the method of doing that, that's perfectly fine. You're still going to get your vocab through that. Hungary, England, Poland, Algeria, another Rhode Island, Finland, Philippines. I'm from Hanja? Excuse me, where is that? Where is Hanja? Hanja. Never heard of there. Egypt, Kazakhstan, Switzerland. Just visited South Korea again and again. Slovenia. Ngruzi to whoever's from Switzerland. Is that how you say hello? Gruzi? I don't know. Looks like the name of like IKEA, something they would sell there. Like you'd flip over the back and look at the tag and it says like Gruzi and it'll be like a pair of scissors or something. Illinois, Poland. Hanja is located at SM Entertainment. Hanja? I'm not sure what that is. Do you mean Hangyo or somewhere else? Morocco, Bulgaria. Nice. Hanja is a K-pop reference. Okay, I've never heard of that. What's that from? Like, who made that up? Never heard of it. New York City, Australia. Gothenburg, Sweden. Puerto Rico. The Puerto Rico is just such a foreign country, right? It's like far off away from the United States. I wonder who is the leader of Puerto Rico. What's going on over there? Yeah, I've never been there. Heard it's a nice place. I actually don't know where it is on a map. I just know it's the US. I just don't know what part. I think it's toward the East Coast, right? It's kind of off the East Coast somewhere. Vietnam. Espa. I do know the group, but I don't know their, like, if they have lore. I don't know what their lore is. Below Florida. Okay, that makes sense. So not as far down as Cuba. Is it like between Florida and Cuba or like to the right of Florida? Let's see. It's in the south of England. Getting ready for another bedtime lesson. South of England. Getting ready for another bedtime lesson. A little round to Florida? You mean like, I'm not sure what that word was supposed to be. What was supposed to be? A little round. For anyone who's just coming in right now and it's your first time, we always just do a hangout before we start. And the lesson will always be at the top of the hour for whenever we're starting. So that's like 15 minutes from right now. Oh, a little down. Okay, a little down to... You mean down from Florida? Okay. Between Cuba and Barbados. Barbados sounds like a place that you would travel if you were like a pirate in the Disney series, Pirates of the Caribbean. I feel like they would go to Barbados. That just sounds like the destination for pirates. Am I wrong? But like, is Barbados like the pirate place? That just sounds like such a pirate island. Barbados. Okay. Barbados. Well, I don't know how the pirates said it, okay? Cut me some slack. Barbados. Yeah, 'Arr. He teaches us language and we teach him geography. I think it's a fair trade. Barbados is in the Caribbean. Well, there we go. That's why I thought of it as being a pirate island, because it's in the Caribbean. Or Caribbean, however you prefer to say it. But don't say Pirates of the Caribbean, because that sounds so wrong. At least it's Pirates of the Caribbean. But if you want to talk about the islands, you can say either one. I'll accept that. Good rum there, and pirates like, that's right. Pirates drink rum. That's pretty much all they did, right? They just sailed around, held up swords, drank rum, and said, "Yar." That's like pretty much all they did, right? They didn't actually exist. They didn't actually do bad things. I've been to Disneyland enough times to know that that's pretty much the extent of what they do. Yeah. Where is Dominican Republic? That's south of here. Never been there either. Enma C asks, do you have specific Anki decks listed somewhere that you recommend for vocab? I do not recommend Anki decks for vocab. I mean, I like Anki. I recommend Anki as just a tool. It's basically just electronic flashcards. So I don't recommend finding a deck, though, anyone's deck. Like, doesn't matter where it comes from, because that's not going to be so useful to you unless you're like pulling items from the deck to make your own, which is okay. Like, you know, you take a list of words, but you then take those and pick the ones that you think are useful, that you've heard, and make them into your own deck. I always recommend making your own vocabulary deck. So don't use word lists. Don't use pre-made vocab decks for like when you're first starting, especially as a beginner. Later on, when you're intermediate or advanced, then it's not so, it's okay, because you're not going to be learning all those words anyway. You can skip through it really quick and just pick the ones you don't know. But as a beginner, it's kind of worthless to do a pre-made deck because you don't know what the word is that you're even learning. I'll try to give you an example. So close your eyes and imagine that you're not perfect in Korean yet. I know this is a bit difficult. It would have been really hard for me too. You see a word in a vocab deck that is, let's say, taeyang, and it says sun. So S-U-N. So you're like, sun. Okay. So that's the word that means sun. So you write it down, blah, 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 blah. And then the other day, then you're talking to your friend and you're saying, oh, I saw, the sun is really bright today. And you say, 태양이 밝아요. The sun is bright. And you're not wrong. But that might not be the most common way they refer to sun. There's another word, 해, 달 for moon, and 해 for sun are the most conversational common ways to say it. 태양 has more of a scientific type of feel to it. Like, it's the official word for like the sun. So if you're just learning a word randomly, like, oh, this word must mean this word must be this, you're not getting like wrong words, but you're not going to sound natural using them. Whereas if someone said to you in a natural conversation, like, like, oh, I saw the sun today, or the sun was really bright, or whatever, and whatever word they used in their conversation, you wrote that down instead, like, hey, for example, for sun, or whatever it is, that's going to be way more useful to you now because you've heard the word used. You can even write down like a snippet of what they said in your vocab deck. You can make a note of how it sounded, like who was saying it to you or whatever. You can do whatever notes you like. And now you have a more useful word to you. Then later when you hear someone use a different word, you can then write it down and figure out, oh, how is that different than the other word I used? Oh, well, that person was giving it in a presentation, so maybe it's a formal version, kind of like that. I don't recommend getting vocab decks online though, for that reason. Now, if you know that and you're okay with looking up every word one at a time as they come up, knock yourself out. But most beginners aren't quite experienced enough to do that on their own yet. It would be said like Parparos in a dark, gloomy Johnny Depp voice. Is that how they say it? Parparos. What do you like to learn in your free time? Korean. There are still pirates today. Yeah, but they usually just sit in their mom's basement eating Cheetos. It's not quite as cool. I mean, it wasn't really cool at the time either. I take it back. Pirates weren't cool. And there are also pirates like that ride in boats and steal stuff too. Yeah, that's true. Okay. Fair enough, but the romanticized version of them is much cooler, right? You're just imagining Johnny Depp, and I am too. I'm like, yeah, okay, that's cool. Or the other guy, oh my goodness, Jeffrey Rush. Cool. Yeah, Anki is just a app. It's a desktop program. They have it on Windows, Mac, all of the devices, and it's just an electronic flashcard program essentially. Oh yeah, and you can open your eyes again. I should have said that. Howdy from Korea. Welcome. I have a paper deck from lessons. If you have paper flashcards, those are actually better. They work better than flashcards, Anki flashcards, for many reasons. Because you get the tactile feedback of writing them, and you're reading them, and you're touching them. The downside to paper flashcards is as soon as your flashcard deck gets over a couple hundred words, which is really fast, it becomes unwieldy. It's really difficult to manage. And I've used a vocab deck that was 600 words. I had 600 flashcards way back before I was doing YouTube. I was studying Mandarin and I was studying Cantonese for a bit. And when I studied Cantonese, I made flashcards I bought little flashcards from the bookstore. They're like little tiny cards just meant for vocab. And a pack had, I can't remember how many each had. Maybe each had 200. Anyway, I had a few packs. And I got up to over 600 words in that deck. And as soon as I was like over, 300-400, it just gets really difficult to manage. Like you can't organize which ones you don't know so easily when there are so many. Like which ones do I do today? And like trying to organize which ones I need to study. And then I once dropped like half of them, so they're all mixed up, and I'm trying to organize them again and go through them. It just becomes a pain to remember like which ones do you have to do and when do you have to do them when you get that many words. But for like 100 words or so, it's like if you're in the very beginning, I think it's really good just to get your first few verbs, your first few words. I think they work really good for that. Someone that's good at Korean has room to improve. Yo, yeah, I'll always have room to improve. I mean, anyone who studies any language would know, not just Korean, but like say Spanish. Like you never finish studying a foreign language. You can always improve and learn more things. In your native language too, you could always improve your native language too. Anki changed its name? No, they did not. Unless they just did this change like last week or something. Are flashcards worth doing? Sure, if you like flashcards. If you don't like flashcards, no, then don't use them. It's just a study method for learning vocab, but it's not the only one. It's not necessarily the best. It's just a method. And the nice thing though about flashcards is that it's a way to study vocab that doesn't take too much of your brain power. Like you don't have to worry about creating your own system for reviewing and using them. You just go through the vocab deck and review when it tells you to. So it does save some mental energy for other tasks, but it's by far, it's not the best way to study vocabulary. It's just the easiest way to tell people to get started doing it. Better way is every time you hear a word, look it up, make a sentence with it, think about it, and then go on with your life. But that takes a lot of extra time, and you won't have the time to do that usually. Like if someone says a word you don't know, 자, 죄송한데 방금 뭐라고 하셨어요? 태영인가? 태양이요. 태양. And you look it up. Oh, sun. 그러면 태양이랑 해랑 무슨 차이예요? 어떻게 달라요? Like you can ask them that in a conversation. Sorry, my voice got a little bit sore. It's fine now, but it still sounds a little bit. So it's a little bit higher than normal, I know. But you would ask them that in context, and then they can tell you. They might not know. But the fact that you could ask that and get that answer from them, even if it's an I don't know, can help you know when to use it yourself, if that makes any sense. Like you know that they use this word in this situation, you can be like, oh, well, I guess that's the less common one. And eventually you'll figure out the difference by learning other words too. But that's the best way to learn vocab, but most people don't have that opportunity. Most people also don't have really the willpower to do that sort of thing. That takes like, you have to know how to learn a language to do that and be willing to do that, what you actually have to do to learn that word. But if you can't do that, then just at least have the words with notes in your flashcards. That works too. Kyled. Hey, Kyled. Life got busy all of a sudden, and I have finally had a day off to work to join a stream. Yeah, long time no see. Kyled, I've got a... For those of you, as well as Kyled, who are interested in the podcast, I really want to turn the camera 45 degrees, and I'll show you. The podcast walls are all up, and there's some stuff on them already. And by the end of this month, the whole set will be done. But this week, I'm going to be doing an update for the podcast. I'll put some animations in there. There'll be music in there. Stuff that's already complete for the podcast. So look on my Patreon page sometime this month. Not this month, but this week. There's going to be an update in a few days on that. Yeah, it's good to see you. Dream says, I'm starting my first Korean class. Wish me luck. Nice. Gusumdochi. Yeah. I mean, that's not as useless as a word as you think. You'll see that animal sometimes, or you'll see like stuffed animals of it, and you're like, oh, what do I call it? Oh, yeah, gusumdochi. Yeah. So you'll see it. Yeah, it's a bit congested, but I feel fine if that makes sense. It's just because it was sore, but now it's better, but it's still like, I don't know. And we'll get started with the lesson in just 5 minutes. We've got a pretty actually almost intermediate level lesson. It's beginner, but it's not like low beginner lesson. I'd say it's like mid beginner to high beginner for some of the stuff. Yeah, hedgehog. I remember there was a story that I was reading, my kid was reading when he was younger, and it had different kinds of hedgehog, and all of their names ended with dochi. So if you didn't know the word gusumdochi, then you would have no clue why their names were ending all in tochi. You're like, what? What's this thing? And you'd search it up. You're like, what does it mean? But if you know that, then it makes it easier. So yeah, it's not a useless word. I'm almost done with your beginner series. Nice, Cash. It's good to hear. Anakin says, yeah, I don't have opportunities to speak Korean much to others, which is when I would recommend finding either language exchange friends online or just ponying up and hiring a conversation partner on a tutoring website. Finding someone that's just, priced low, someone who you would like to sound similar to. You listen to their voice a bit on their sample recordings, say, oh, I think their voice sounds okay. I think I'd like to sound kind of like them. And just book them for like 30 minutes a couple times a week and do listening practice and speaking practice with them. Like try to do only Korean with them if you can. Heard any reels? Is that a singer in a song? I don't know. Yeah, so also for the live stream schedule, there is no live stream next Sunday. So there was one last Sunday and one today. So next Sunday will be off. Then we'll get 2 more in a row after that. In the week that I'm off I'm going to be finishing up the rest of the podcast set and getting some more stuff for that setup. So yeah, like I said, check out Patreon page this week. There will be a surprise there for all members to see an update of how it's going. It looks really cool. I can't show you. It's literally right here. I can touch it. Okay, I just touched it. It's here. Oh, okay. The singer is, oh, okay. I guess there's a singer. Is this supposed to be like Tochi, like in Korean, or is it a different language? What's the best online resource for searching Hanja? That would be Naver Dictionary, by far. There are other dictionaries online, but Naver Dictionary is my favorite because it gives you everything, even the stuff you didn't want. Like it just throws everything at you, and it's really overwhelming if you're a beginner. But if you're at the point where you're learning Hanja, then you want that. It has everything for you. So you can search by the sound and you just click the Hanja button. It'll find the Hanja with that sound. Or if you hit the right Alt button, I think it's Alt, yeah. Yeah, the right Alt button on your keyboard after you've typed a syllable, before you go to the next syllable when it's still highlighted, you type it. Then you hit Alt and it'll show you a list of Hanja that has that sound. And you can search by the Hanja as well. And it'll show you like where it came from, its etymology, how to write it, all that stuff, all that cool stuff. It won't tell you, it won't give you like a lesson about it. Like it won't tell you all the places it's used. It'll usually only show you like one word that it's used in or something, or a few. For that, if I have a lesson in my Korean FAQ series about that hanja, you can find more about it. Otherwise, at least it'll tell you how to use it and what it means. She's black, but I thought she may have gotten it from hedgehog in Korean. Could be, I don't know. I'm not sure why there would be two eyes, though, if that were the case. Is her hair like spikes? Or does she run really fast like Sonic? Oh, it's 2 o'clock. You know what that means. It's time to start our lesson. We're going to be learning 4 common, not all common, we're going to be learning 4 useful ways to say let's in Korean, starting with a very casual way and then moving up slowly to a more polite way that you can use. And the first way, many of you probably already know. And that is ta. Now, there is another ta form that means as soon as, but that's not the one we're going to be covering today. I've done a separate lesson about that. This one, you simply take any action verb. So to go, 가다, 하다, to do, 먹다, to eat, anything like that. And you chop off the ta at the end. So you're left with the stem. And then you attach ta, and you're done. That's all there is to it. You just use the regular verb stem for that. So don't use like a past tense verb stem. Like 하다 is just ha, ta, and you're done. Don't do like 했어요, like don't do 했자 or something like that. That will be wrong. Now, there isn't too much you have to know about this, but there's one very important note. This form is only used in 반말, casual speech. So who can you use casual speech with? Someone who is both the same age as you or younger and your close friend. Or a child, or like an animal or something like that. Someone that's clearly way younger than you that you can talk casually to them. Do not use this to new friends that you've just met. Don't use it to strangers. It's only used in casual speech. If you think it would be okay to say like, yo! Do kids say yo? Kids didn't say yo when I was a kid either. If you think it would be okay to like, swear and goof around and like, bump the person with your elbow, like, all that sort of friendly stuff that we might do in the US. If it's kind of that sort of relationship, you can use this, but don't use this to your older friends unless they specifically told you that they want you to speak casually with them. Most of the time, they won't. But if they're a close friend and they say, hey, you can speak 반말 해도 돼, then you can use this. Otherwise, only use this to your friends that are the same age as you or younger. Don't use it to other acquaintances or strangers. Okay. So that's all you need to know about this form. So let me give you an example sentence. See how I write the P up here? That's just how I write it, but like I said, it's not necessarily the best way. It's just my style. 같이. So 같이 means together. 밥 literally means cooked rice, but that's how you say a meal. 밥 먹다, to eat. 먹으러 가자, to go, to eat a meal together. So let's go eat a meal together. Let's go get something to eat. 같이 밥 먹으러 가자. Again, 가다, to go. 가자, that's all you have to do. Let's go. You could have just said 가자, let's go, and you also have a full sentence. 같이 밥 먹으러 가자. So let's go eat together. I'll leave this up for just a second. I have a few more sentences for this form. And if this feels like it's too simple, don't worry. We're going to be going up in the level. Didn't know Korean IME has that. Yeah, it's just a little trick for Hanja. Saja can mean let's buy a lion. Saja saja. Yeah, although in the K-pop Demon Hunters, it doesn't have the meaning of saja, like let's buy. Saja boys doesn't mean let's buy boys. That's so saja, though, it has the two meanings. One is of a lion, but the other it's just for 저승 사자, which is like a grim reaper, kind of like a undertaker sort of meaning. So that's what it's supposed to be. So it's like saja boys, it's like the grim boys. That might be a translation for it, where it's like grim, but it's like it implies grim reaper, sort of. If you can't say bro, don't use 반말. Hinor says difference between 틀리다 and 다르다. 틀리다 is to be wrong. 다르다 is to be different. But some Koreans misuse 틀리다 to mean 다르다. But they're not at all. Keith says, so all did it yesterday. Perfect. Oh, Lexica, thank you. Minute 7. Hart wants to sound like a K-drama gangster and says, 가자. Lexica comes in with a $5 donation. Thank you again. 감사합니다. Okay, let's do another one. Again, I know this form is simple. Most of you already know it, so bear with me while we just do a couple more sentences here. Okay. 만나서 얘기하자. 만나다 is to meet. So 만나서. So let's meet, and then after we meet, in the same place that we meet, where we meet, that sort of meaning for 서. 얘기하다 is to have a conversation. So we would just say have a talk or talk. So let's meet and talk. 만나서 얘기하자. So let's meet and talk. Let's talk for a bit, as in like let's meet and talk. 만나서 얘기하자. Okay, one more sentence. I'll leave this up for just a second. One more sentence for this form, and then we'll go on to something a little bit better. I say better like everyone knows this form, so. Oh yeah, you're talking about umhun. Yeah, that's a normal word for, if you're studying Hanja, you're gonna do the those sorts of readings. The reading, the way you read it and the way that it's pronounced. Shella says, or a stranger you're trying to fight. As if you look like you're not a Korean, they're going to give you the foreigner card without you asking. So they're going to just understand like, oh, this person doesn't speak Korean. They're doing their best. They don't mean to be rude. They're not going to take it negatively if you use casual speech in a situation where you're not supposed to. But if they are someone who is much older, they might not. It depends on the person. Like it depends on how understanding they are of other people. I've heard stories where people used 반말, casual speech, to older people and got yelled at and got in trouble. And other situations where they got laughed at, and other situations where the person didn't react at all. And a lot of situations where the person liked it and was happy that they were using any Korean and was like, yeah, let's just use casual speech. So it depends. Sometimes, so I sometimes use language exchange apps as well to make friends. And it's not uncommon that Koreans will occasionally, this isn't the norm, but it's not uncommon, that people will first start talking to me in 반말, even though I'm a bit older than them. Or regardless, actually, if I was the same age or younger, it still would be rude. But they'll immediately start the conversation by saying like, 안녕, 내 이름은 something something like 철수야 반가워 네 이름은 like like that kind of thing, really casual speech from the very beginning. It's just a thing. Like, they're not doing they just assume that I wouldn't know that, and they're just going to speak casually because it's easier and it's more friendly. But yeah, it's kind of a tricky topic. I have a whole course about politeness levels on my channel. I think it's like 26 lessons that are like jam-packed with all of the situations, all of the grammar forms for that, and it's completely free. You can check it out. Okay. And one more thing that you should also know is if you want to make the negative form of a suggestion, you do not use the an form. Like if you wanted to say let's not go, you wouldn't say like an 가자 or 가지 않자 or something like that. You use the ending 지 말다, which is the same ending that you use for saying don't, like 가지 마세요, 가지 마요, like 가지 마. So if you wanted to say let's not go, you would use this form. Like 가다 would normally become 가자, like let's go. Oops. But if you wanted to say let's not go, you would attach this form, 가지 말, and then 자. So 가지 말자, let's not go. If someone says 가자, 가지 말자, let's not go, and say that we did, or say that we didn't, which is the correct one? I can't remember. 가지 말자, let's not go. Okay, I'm just going to leave it up for 10 seconds, and then we're going to go on to the next form. I think most people here already know this form. This is why it's so scary to talk to native people. But remember, you have the foreigner card if you don't look like you're Korean. If you do look kind of like you're Korean, or you could be mistaken for a Korean, I'm so sorry. Oh my God, you have, you're in the worst of cases. I had a friend, I think I've told a story. He's Native American. I think he's Navajo. And a lot of that, I guess his tribe, like that, people from there actually look kind of Korean. They have a little bit darker skin, but some Koreans do too. But like the facial features kind of look like Korean, and hair was also kind of like, Korean style. So the guy I knew, he got mistaken for Korean all the time. He couldn't speak Korean very much, but he often got mistaken for a Korean person. So as soon as he opened his mouth, they're like, oh, okay. But if you look Korean, you don't get the foreigner card right away. You have to kind of earn it. But if you don't look Korean, they instantly assume you won't speak Korean. So they're not going to be upset if you say something simple and it's wrong. The only exception to the foreigner card is when you're making complete sentences. When you start having conversations, you lose the foreigner card for the most part, because it's expected that now you know how to use these grammar forms. And if you don't, then it could be considered like you're doing it on purpose. But no one here is going to have that issue. Once you're having conversations, you're going to be good at using politeness levels because you're learning Korean with me. And you've heard about this stuff so many times. So by that time, you won't have any issues. But in the beginning stages, I wouldn't worry about it very much. You're not going to have any issues with it. Okay, so that was the easiest one. Let's go on then to a slightly more polite way that you can say let's. Now, you actually already know how to make this form. You just take the yo form of any action verb. So 가다, 가요, 하다, 해요, 먹다, 먹어요. And you're done. Yes, the regular yo form has a lot of uses to it. One of them is to say let's. Now, this will be in context. If you walk up to someone, heyo, like, what are you, are you saying like, let's do something, or I do something, or I am doing something, or commanding them do something? it can mean all of those things without context. But in context, 밥 먹어요. 밥 먹다, to eat. 밥 먹어요. I mean, that's obviously not I am eating. It's not I will eat. Like, it could be I will eat. It's not you eat so much as it is like, hey, 같이 밥 먹어요. Like, let's eat together. Again, 같이 means together. This is optional, but I recommend adding it to make it extra clear that you mean together. We're doing something and not just I'm doing something. You can use the regular you form as a suggestion as well to say, let's go. 이제 가요. Could be, I'm leaving now. Or, 자, 가요. Hey, let's go. Or like, 가요, you go. Like, it can have all those meanings. So I recommend using it with 같이, but it can mean let's do something. Now, this form, although it uses the you form, that doesn't mean it's polite. This form is still not polite to strangers. It's not going to be polite to people who are much older than you. And it's not going to be polite in any formal situation. You're not going to use this to your boss. You're not going to use this to your coworkers unless you're kind of close with them. It sounds a little polite. It's basically like default politeness, but it's not actually polite sounding. So if you see the yo at the end, that doesn't really mean polite. The yo ending is actually what means informal, just not formal. So anyway, that's all you have to do. I don't have to teach you about this because you should already know this form. So let's do a few example sentences. 같이, together, 점심, lunch, 먹어요, eat. So, eat lunch together is what you get. Let's eat lunch together. 같이 점심 먹어요. 같이 점심 먹어요. Hey, eat lunch together, literally. Or, let's have lunch together. 같이 점심 먹어요. So again, you could just use 점심 먹어요 in context, and it could mean let's eat lunch. And it could mean let's eat lunch. I don't know why I added in all those extra spaces in there. I recommend adding 같이 so it's clear that you mean together. Okay, I'll leave this up for just 10 seconds and then we'll go on to the next sentence. This one also is pretty easy. The next two forms we have are going to be a little bit better for, like, I'd say high beginner. Let's see if I missed any of the chat. Sarah says, can you create another course? I did a whole course, which just ended just last week. That was for beginner, intermediate, and advanced. So check that out first. I also have a conversational Korean course, which is intermediate. And I have the politeness level course, which is definitely intermediate. 이따 비가 올 테니까 가지 말자. Yeah, it's going to rain a little bit later, so let's not go. Mafaz says, how long before the foreigner card lasts? As long as you don't look Korean. So if you get surgery to look like a Korean person, your foreigner card expires. But otherwise, it stays, it's active. You don't have to renew it. It doesn't cost anything. Oh, Kai. Welcome, Kai. They let you out of the basement for the day. That's nice. That's so kind. Adobe is just, so generous that they don't keep you in the basement all the time. They do give you a little bit of free time to get out. Most companies don't really take care of their employees like that. I too eat. Johnsy says, so if I go to Korea and get in trouble, I'll just say Billy said it was okay. Yeah, do it. 빌리가 괜찮다고 그랬는데요. Billy said it's okay. And they'll be like, oh yeah, you're right. They would have forgotten that for a second, but they'll remember. As soon as you say my name, as soon as you say 빌리, they'll be, oh yeah, Billy said something about that. Yeah, I remember. Yeah, go ahead. And record their answer. So we can have a proof of that. Okay. 드라마 같이 봐요. Drama, as in like a TV drama. 같이, together. 보다, to see, to watch. 봐요. So, watch together drama. If you say it like that, it almost sounds like caveman language. Watch together drama. 드라마 같이 봐요. Let's watch drama together. Let's watch some TV together. Like that. 드라마 같이 봐요. I'll leave this up for just 10 seconds and then we'll go on to our next sentence. I have one more for this form. Yes, it's totally fine. You can actually do pretty much anything you want in Korea and just tell them Billy told you it's okay. And you'll get away with it, pretty much. I guarantee you. I don't guarantee that, but do it and see what happens. I'm only allowed out for this live specifically because they want you as a client. Well, as long as I continually pretend that I might download Adobe, then you could keep coming out every once in a while for these streams. All right, I can keep doing that. You know, Adobe, I might actually subscribe to you guys. I'm thinking about it any moment. I might do it. I just need some more time to think about it. But I'm leaning that direction. What would an older family relative, such as a grandpa, be considered in terms of politeness levels? So they're your family, but they're your grandfather. So you'd be very polite. You would use the you form, but you're going to use honorifics whenever you're talking about them. So if you're asking them a question about themselves, you're going to use honorifics. You're not going to be using casual speech though. However, it could get a little complicated because some people are actually raised by their grandparents, in which case their grandparent is kind of more like in the role of their parent. And it's common in Korea, although it's not, I don't know if the majority do this, but maybe about half or so, where, yeah, I guess it is the majority. Koreans will speak casually toward their parents. So in that situation, would they speak casually toward their grandparents if their grandparents were the ones that raised them, which is actually pretty common in Korea? I'm actually not sure. What would I think? I'd guess that, yeah, if your grandparents raised you instead of your parents, that you would be speaking casually. You might speak casually toward them. That's my guess. Don't quote me on that, but that's what I would guess. Just because of the way politeness levels normally work, that casual speech isn't necessary. It's not a hard rule. It's more of like a feeling. And when people feel like that sort of closeness with their parents, then regardless of their position, regardless of their age, when they get older, they typically will speak more casually toward their parents. But if there's a Korean here who could verify, that would be really helpful. My guess is they would still speak casually in that situation. Otherwise, though, no, you wouldn't be speaking casually with your grandparents. Like I said, there's like a million rules for polite speech, but they all boil down to the same stuff. It's always the same. It's what does the form feel like is what all of these rules and exceptions all boil down to. What does it feel like? If it feels okay in that situation, it doesn't matter whatever the rules are. That's how it's used. All the rules come from the way that it feels. Apes together strong. Yes. How come you don't use ta for let's do something together? What do you mean? We just did. 보셔요. You could use 보셔요, but 보세요 is the more common standard one. Okay, one more for this form, and then I'm going to go on to our next politester form. That is 같이 together 놀러 가다. 놀다 is to play or hang out. 놀러 가다, to go hang out together. So 같이 놀러 가요. Let's go hang out together. Let's go play together. 같이 놀러 가요. Let's go hang out together. That is our last sentence for this form. I'll leave this up for just 10 seconds, and then I'm going to go on to the next form. Yeah, you probably just came in late. The XXAN, I can't read your name. You probably just came in late where I explained how to use that form. That was the first one we did today. That's only for, yeah, casual speech. There are many ways you can say let's. There's another thing we have to talk about as well toward the end of the lesson, but okay. But these forms aren't really like that polite. I mean, the Yule form is at least not going to be rude, but it's not really polite. It just kind of sounds like you're saying, "Hey, let's do something together." It still has like a casual feel to it. Not a casual feel. It still has like a friendly, soft feel, but it's not necessarily like polite per se. Perchance. There's one more form that you probably have heard. Oops. Oopshida. This one you take an action verb stem again. And then if the action verb stem ends with a consonant, you attach up-shida. Or if it ends with a vowel, you attach piup-shida. Or if it ends with this letter, lir, you remove it and then you attach upshida, just like, sorry, not upshida, but piup-shida, just like that. So, hada ends with a vowel, so you attach like that. That's pretty much all there is to it. So what is this form? Like hada would become hapshida. 먹다 would be 먹읍시다. There isn't anything fancy to using it. It's really straightforward. This form means let's, but it has a more polite feeling. Kind of like you're trying to sound polite. You're not just saying, "Hey, let's go," but you're like, "Hey, let us go." It's a little bit more fancy, a little bit more polite. However, you may have learned this form. I won't say from where, but some other resources, including ones that I was using when I was first learning Korean. You may have read another place that says this is a polite form that you can use in polite situations. This is not. This form is actually not a good form to use in 99% of cases, because while this form is a polite way to say let's, it's polite. It's only a polite way to say let's when someone who is a higher ranking person is addressing someone who's a lower ranking person. It's a polite way to talk down to someone. So, is it polite? Yes. Is it going to be polite if you use it to a stranger? No, most likely not. For example, a group leader, like an older group leader, is speaking to a group of people who are, a little bit younger. They might use this form to say, "All right, everyone, let's begin," like that. It sounds polite, but it still sounds like they are kind of talking down to the group. They're still being polite to them, but they are above the group. They didn't have to be polite, but they're trying to be polite. So it does sound polite, but it's not polite enough to use it with strangers. It's okay if you want to use it to your other family members. Like, "All right, let's start, let's do it." Because they're your family members. It's okay if you want to jokingly use it to your close friends, because it sounds like you're trying to be kind of jokingly polite. "All right, then, let us be off." Kind of like that. But it is a less common form. So personally, I don't recommend using this form, but you should learn it because you're going to hear it sometimes. Signs might use it. Like a sign that's trying to be very strict, like, "Let us not do this. Let us do this." Like, "Let's help the environment." Like that sort of tone is what it feels like. So let me do a couple example sentences. I remember when I was a beginner, like the one of the books I had taught that this was a polite way to say let's. And then I actually went and used it, and it's like really awkward. And then the problem is sometimes then books that would come out after would, like when you're researching for a book, you go through other books to make sure you're not missing anything. But sometimes these newer books would go back to the older books and be like, oh yeah, that's right, that's a good one to learn. And they'll insert it back in again. So these older, outdated concepts that are now wrong keep getting repeated in these newer resources because they were doing the same thing. They're like piggybacking on the mistakes of the past. So sometimes you have issues like this in some Korean resources, not the majority. Majority do their research. If you think about it, if you think about it though for a few minutes, then anyone who speaks Korean will also realize that it's a bit awkward. But yeah, so you might find this even in new resources that teach it as like a really polite way to say let's. But just so you know, it's not really. So let's do a few example sentences. Okay. 빨리, quickly, right away, hurry up and 갑시다, 가다. So let's hurry up and go. 빨리 갑시다. 자, 빨리 갑시다. You can imagine a team leader addressing the members in a group in a polite way. All right, then, let's hurry up and go. But you would not then say the same thing to the team leader. So keep that in mind. It's polite, but it's not polite enough. 빨리 갑시다. So let's hurry and go. Oh, and there are more example sentences for all of these forms we're doing today on the worksheet. I think there are like 12 more example sentences or something, 10 or 12. So if you want more examples, I know I'm only giving a few. There are plenty more on the worksheet, which is also on my Patreon, which I highly recommend you join because it helps me a lot. It helps me not have to rely on YouTube. YouTube ads they're not that much. Anyone's thinking about starting up a YouTube channel, you don't make very much money. Okay, 지금, now, right now, 공부하다, to study, 공부합시다. So let's study now. 지금 공부합시다. 지금 공부합시다. Let's study now. I have one more sentence. I'll leave this up for like 30 seconds and then we're going to go on to the last one. I just want to make sure I'm not missing any chats. Do people use 십시오? Oh, no, 십시오 is a formal form, but it's not archaic. It just is formal. But that doesn't mean let's. That means that's a command. That's simply do it like that. Can it be used to talk to us of the peanut gallery? Yes, you can. But like I said, it has that feeling of someone like kind of talking down in a way. Like the person using it is assumed to be in a higher position than the people hearing it. That's the tone it has. So you can use it to your friends again, but it has that same kind of tone, which with your friends kind of sounds goofy. Like you're trying to sound like you're above everyone else. Like a rank. Yeah, 십시오 is not a suggestion, it is a command. 그냥 음악 is asking about the stream. Well, we have one more form to do after this one. So usually the live classes are about an hour. Sometimes they go an hour and like 15 minutes, but usually an hour. This one, probably another 20 minutes. I don't know. Would it be more beneficial if I give up the green and picked up an Anki deck? I mean, I'm not going to tell you what to do with your money. So go ahead, whatever you'd like. The Anki deck, I will say if you get my personal Anki deck, I wouldn't just put it into your Anki and use it like a vocab deck because it has so many words in there you do not need. I would go through the list, like maybe set a goal of every day, filter through like 20 words in that vocab deck. Like not add them, but like filter through, read through 20 entries and see, is this a word that I think I might need? Is this an interesting word? because there's a lot of interesting stuff in there, but you won't need to know how to say like a briar tumbleweed. Like, do you need to know? No, you're not going to need, you don't need to know the word for like the upper arm muscle here, like Hangwangun, I think is something like that. Like, you don't need to know that sort of stuff, but you could filter through it. And if you find maybe like, oh, out of those 20 words, 3 are like really cool, and I would definitely want to know those. And then that's good enough. Like, that's how I would use it, because I always think it's best to make your own vocabulary deck. But you will get some words in there that you definitely will not find in books or lists. You might not even notice them, that they're there, but I try to give a lot of interesting stuff. Okay, one more sentence for this form, and then I'm going to go on to our last form for today, which is the most polite. Okay. Hop. Again, cooked rice or a meal. 먹읍시다. Let's eat a meal. So, let's eat. 밥 먹읍시다. Let's eat. Something about 밥. So, it literally means cooked rice. The reason why Koreans would say cooked rice to mean a meal is because when you eat a meal in Korea, you actually traditionally would be eating rice with sides. You wouldn't be having like chicken for your meal. No, your meal is the rice. Chicken would be the side traditionally. So when they say eat rice, it's not like, oh, they say rice because rice is important in their culture. No, it's literally because they would be eating rice. And if they were poor in the past, that's all they would eat is just rice. They wouldn't have side dishes if they were poor. So yeah, that the word rice is literal, and only kind of recently do we find it a little funny that they would say 밥 to refer to a meal. Like 언제 밥 한번 같이 먹자. Like, let's go eat a meal together. Let's get a meal together sometime. It's kind of like a classic empty expression that you might hear someone say, just like, hey, yeah, see you again later, when you really don't know, if you will. But it's because literally that's what you would be eating, is you're eating rice. And yeah. 밥 먹읍시다. So let's eat. Let's have a meal. Anyway, that's why it's used to refer to a meal. Okay, so that's pretty straightforward. Like, 시작합시다. Let's start. You know, you're going to hear this sort of stuff. Now you know what it's used for. But there's one more way that you should know to say let's. That is actually polite. If you take an action verb and you attach if the action verb ends in a consonant, or just attach 시조 if it ends in a vowel, or again, if it ends in this letter, then you remove it and you also attach 시조. The rules are the same. So 가다 would become 가시조 because it ends in a vowel. 먹다 would become, actually, 먹다 would not become this. I'll talk about why in a second. 앉다 to sit down, 앉으시죠, like that. So this form also means let's, and it's a polite expression. Yes, you can use this to strangers. You can use this to people who are much older than you. It sounds very soft and polite. It doesn't sound overly formal. It sounds like, let's go, let's eat. It has that feeling. But there's something sinister you have to know about this form. A dark secret that it never wanted you to know. But I'm going to expose it today. In this episode of Billy Exposes Hanja. This form is actually not a let's form. This form is secretly a command. What is a command? Do it! This form is actually telling someone to do something. What it is is an honorific command. The honorific part is this she part here, which means someone else is doing something. Someone else is something, describing or talking about someone else. And the 조 at the end is the 지, 요, 조 ending that you probably know, which means like, isn't it? Right? Okay? Huh? Like, right? That sort of ending. So this form literally means do something, okay? Do something, okay? It actually means that if you tell someone, let's go, 가시죠, you're actually telling them, go, okay? But in a honorific and very polite, soft sounding way. So it's used to say let's, but then how is it used to say let's if it's a command? For example, if we wanted to say like, let's sit down. Let me give you an example. We got to talk about how this works, because I don't just want to give this to you and then, I can't just give you some examples yet. So we're going to say, let's sit down with the verb 앉다, to sit down. So we get 앉으시죠. Sit down, okay? Again, it's honorific because of the 으시 or she part. And it's polite because it ends with 요, 조, okay? Right? Like that. How does this mean let's? Well, it doesn't. Then why does it mean let's? Because in Korean, you actually cannot tell someone like, don't do something, like, let's do something. Like, these sorts of things by default are not ever going to be very polite. If you were to go up to someone and say like, don't touch me, like, by default, in Korean, it's kind of rude. Like, they could do what they want. They can say this to you. They can tell you to do this. Like, telling someone don't, or telling someone do something, or telling someone like, let's do something, it's kind of direct in Korean. So how can you do that then if you want to still be polite? Well, you can't, but what you can do is say it, do it in a polite way. And a very polite way of saying do something is this. The 조 makes it a little bit softer. It's not just saying like sit down. It's not even just saying 앉으세요, sit down. It's not even a polite way of saying sit down. It's like, hey, sit down, okay? It's like that. It's a softer, more polite way of saying do something that can get used in that way indirectly to mean let's do something. But again, it is a command and it means you do it. But by you doing it, you're going to do it first and then I'm going to follow you. That sort of meaning. Oh, 앉으시죠. 앉으시죠. Oh, have a seat. And then I'm just going to sit down after. So it doesn't really mean like, let's sit down as much as it just means, go ahead and sit down. And, I'll take care of myself. You sit down. In that way, let's sit down. Or, 가시죠. Go. If anyone saw Spider-Man 2. Go. Okay? But it's like a nice way of saying, all right, you go. And I'm going too. Like, but you worry about yourself. It's a polite way of giving someone a command that can be used to say, let's do something. And this one also is commonly used. This one also is commonly used with 같이, just like before, to emphasize that, yes, you're doing it, but, do it together with me. That sort of meaning. So instead of just saying like 앉으시죠, you could say 같이 앉으시죠 if you want. Or you can just say 앉으시죠, sit down, and then I'll sit down myself. That works too. Basically, how can you say let's in a very polite way? The answer is you can't. But instead, you could just tell them to do it in a nice way and then you follow. And Korean has a lot of things like that. So let me give you some examples. Korean has a lot of stuff like that. Like you can't tell someone like, don't. You can't tell someone like, do it. But you could say, oh, do you think that I could? Or do you think it would be okay if you wouldn't do that? Can you please not do that? Like, you can say things indirectly and sound polite, but like telling someone don't do that can be very strict, like very direct and strong and sound a bit impolite. So, first sentence. 다음에, 다음 meaning next time here. 다음에, so next time, 같이, together. 낚시하다 is to fish. 낚시하러 가다, to go fishing. 낚시하러 가시죠. So next time, 가시죠. Go together fishing, okay? Is what you're saying. Go fishing together next time, okay? It's a polite, soft way of telling someone to do something, meaning, hey, let's go fishing together next time. 다음에 같이 낚시하러 가시죠. So, next time, let's go fishing together. Okay, I'll leave this up for a minute. I'm going to check the chat. And I have a couple more example sentences of this form. Hopefully this makes sense. Yes. Keith's like, we're going to verb, right? Right? Please go away, but I want to be nice about it. Yeah. Does it sound passive aggressive? No, because this 조 at the end is like, okay, it's like, yeah, but you've made it into an honorific. Now, if your face expression is like this, 다음에 낚시하러 가시죠? Yeah, that's aggressive. That's very passive aggressive. They understand that in Korean. Does 시조 have a base form? Yeah, it would be the same form that you would get for the 으시 or 시, honorific stem. Oh, Mafaz is asking about tenika and teni. Yeah, teni is the exact same form, but tenika is a more conversational version of it. That's more common in speech. Teni has a little bit more of a written form, a little bit more of a written feel, like a slightly more formal feel to it. Not formal, but more formal, relative. It's the same form, though. And the same goes for any form that has like ni or the ga at the end. So 그냥 음악 is asking, can I also use something like 같이 갈까요? That's not a suggestion. So you can use that and it's polite. But what you're saying isn't, let's go. But you're saying, shall we go together? How about if we go together? It's kind of more asking their opinion. It's not making a suggestion like saying, hey, like it's not saying, hey, let's go. But it's like, what if we went together? How about if you went and I went and we went together? Just kidding. Unless. So it has a different feel to it. Tenika is not intend. It's not an intend form. I have a separate lesson about, actually I have several lessons about tenika and tende. Those are assumptions. So I assume, or I'm sure, I'm positive, it's definitely gonna be, for sure, like that sort of meaning. Oh, wait. I gotta give you this. Can't spoil it. You didn't see that. Okay, what if you wanted to say, let's eat? Well, we get the verb 먹다, to eat, right? We get the stem, and we attach 으시죠, right? No. Why is 먹으시죠? It sounds awkward, and it's wrong. But why? Because this 으시 part means that it's an honorific form. So when you're using an honorific form on a verb, you have to use the honorific verb. And the honorific verb for 먹다 is 드시다. 드시다. And you also have to know that this is an honorific verb. You can't just know that this is polite, because someone might make this. 드시시죠. Which is also awkward and wrong. 드시시죠. You're trying to make it like extra honorific. Waiting for them to like nod their approval and say, okay, thank you for being extra polite. You have to also know that 드시다 is another honorific form. In fact, 드시다 comes from the verb originally, 들다, which is a honorific way of saying eating, which changes into the honorific verb as the lir goes away and you get 드시다. So when you use this form, 시조, you just attach it to the end here because it already is from an honorific verb. 드시죠, not 먹으시죠, for let's eat. And 드시죠, again, it doesn't mean legally, it doesn't mean it doesn't mean literally, let's eat. It means, oh, eat, please, okay? Yeah, eat, okay? It's an honorific way of telling someone to do something. But by doing that, if you tell someone else to eat and that person is older than you, so you're being polite to them, they are likely the person who needs to eat first so that everyone else can eat. Because in Korean culture, the oldest person, the person at the highest rank, eats first. And everyone else waits for them to eat. So you can't just say, nom 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 nom, oh, 드시죠, nom nom, like that. They are going to be eating first. So you are waiting for them. So telling them eat is the way to say let's eat because you can't eat without them. 드시죠. 드시죠. Yeah, here. Start eating so I can eat. I'm getting hungry. Eat. 드시죠. So, let's eat. But you go first is what it means. Okay, last example for this form. I already gave this one, but one more time. 앉으시죠. So, 앉다 is to sit down. 으시죠. So, have a seat, okay? Like that. Implying, here, you sit down first. After I've made sure that you've sat down, then I'm going to sit down. So, let's sit down. 앉으시죠. Have a seat. Again, you are literally commanding them politely and honorifically to do it. But that's how you would suggest that you're doing it together, by you do it first. And then I'm going to figure out how to do it on my own, but I'm making sure to take care of you first. That sort of meaning. And that's intertwined with Korean culture of an older person starting to eat first, going somewhere first, like doing things first, that sort of culture. That was a short lesson. And that is all you need to know about how to say let's in Korean. We learned 4 different forms. Thank you for coming to the lesson. I'm going to hang around and I'm going to take some questions from the chat. If you have any questions regarding anything related to Korea or Korean or this lesson, now is a good time to ask, and you can get your answers questioned. The other way. Let me take a quick thumbnail image. I think that'll work. And again, there is no live stream Sunday. This coming Sunday, there's no live stream, but there will be another 2 in a row after that. And this week on my Patreon page, make sure to check out my Patreon page this week after a few days. There will be another big update about how the podcast is going. Because as I mentioned at the beginning of the stream, if I turn my camera right now, 90 degrees, actually less than that, you would see a bunch of set walls. So if you want to see what the set looks like so far, if you want to hear what the theme song sounds like, if you want to see what the what a bunch of stuff looks like so far for the podcast, as well as how planning is going, make sure to check my Patreon page in a couple days this week. 반말 plus 존칭 is weird, yes. 식사하시죠, yes. Dude, pick up the fork already, yeah. 포크 들으시죠? Yeah, pick up the fork, okay? Lexica, yes. 감사합니다, 빌리 선생님. You are welcome. 당신은 환영. I'm joking. Don't say that. That's totally wrong. Billy, will you make it abridged version? All of them have abridged versions. If you are one of my members, who are the people who support me through YouTube directly, you have a green name and you can watch this abridged version tonight. I'm going to edit it after the live stream ends. So tonight you can watch the abbreviated version of this whole lesson. Everyone else, it'll go up on like Wednesday. You can watch it. Why might lir and piep disappear from some verbs? Those are two different questions you're asking, actually. CDVS piep is a longer explanation. The really quick answer for lir disappearing is just due to it softening, because like 놀다, 놀시죠, it's just because it softens and it's harder to say. The piep is a different reason. I actually have a video all about why the piep disappears on my channel in the Korean FAQ video series. If you search piep on my channel, you'll find it. The really quick explanation is that in older Korean, it wasn't a P letter. It was a more of like a W sound. So that's the technical reason. But yeah, watch that video I put out. It'll answer that in depth, like why it happens, why it doesn't happen. It just has to do with older Hangul, because older Hangul used to have more letters and more sounds than they do today. Keith says, this may seem dumb, but can I use, or should I use, a backpack when I'm wandering around in Korea? Will I be asked to not bring it in places and such? Okay, so that's a really good question. And the answer to that changes every so often. When I first went to Korea, backpacks were like not cool. If you're carrying around a backpack, it looks like, oh, you're such a tourist. To answer your question really quickly, though, you can totally bring a backpack pretty much anywhere. I can't think of any place you can't bring a backpack besides like riding a roller coaster. So you're fine for that. Whether it's trendy or not will depend on how the trends are going. Because I said the first time I went to Korea, backpacks weren't that cool. But then when I went to Korea after getting married, suddenly backpacks were in style, and like people were purposely wearing backpacks just to look cool, even though they didn't really carry anything important in it, just because it was like the trend to carry around a backpack. Now it's not like special trendy to carry a backpack, but it's fine. I would say whatever backpack you get one that looks kind of cool. Get the coolest looking one you can get. I personally kind of like the ones from TomTalk. So this isn't sponsored. I wish they paid me. I wish they gave me free bags instead of me having to buy them. But I bought a few of them so far. I've used for travel in Korea. They look kind of cool and they're cheap, which is why I like them. They're cheap, but they look nice. Or just get a backpack that looks nice for you. Like, don't get one that's shredded. If you have a backpack that looks like it's been used a lot, I would probably leave it home, just because it'll make it look like you're more like of a backpacker instead of a tourist. And not that that's really a big issue, but I don't know. If you want to like look as cool as possible, get a new one, or one that looks like not damaged. But totally fine. You can definitely use a backpack. I would say get one that's not too big though, especially if you're going in the summer. It's just going to make you sweat a lot all over your neck and all over your back. So get one that's kind of appropriately sized for what you need. Don't use like a big giant backpack that, you know, goes over your head and goes all the way down to the floor. Just because even though you can still take them in any place you want, it's just going to be an inconvenience to put them down. Like when you go into a restaurant, it's like, where are you going to put it? A lot of restaurants will have places that you can store bags. Like they might have a bag holder in the chair, but it's only going to support a regular size backpack. Okay, let me check here really quick. Kai says, can you clarify between 줄 알다 and 수 있다? So 줄 알다, I actually have a separate lesson all about that, but the 줄 is to know that something. Like I know, or actually to keep it simpler, like I know something. 알다 is to know, 모르다 is to not know. So like you would say, I don't know how to. I don't know, like 자전거 탈 줄 몰라요. I can't ride a bike. I don't know how to. So like I know how or I don't know how is 줄. And 있다 없다 is I cannot. Simply 할 수 없어요. 갈 수 없어요. 자전거를 탈 수 없어요. Like I cannot do it. Versus I don't know how to. So it has to do with the knowledge of something, whether you have it. And 수 있다 is more of the ability. 수 is a word that means ability. It's a bound noun. It's only used together with other nouns. Other verbs. Trying to go through the questions really quick. Just reading them really quick. 그냥 음악 says, do they use 오다 and 가다? Yes, 오다 is toward the person who is speaking. 가다 is away from the person who is speaking. So if you say 한국에 오세요, that means I am the person, like you are coming to me and I am in Korea. I can't say I will come to Korea because 오다 is, again, the person speaking point of view. Coming here to me. Kylet says, thank you for giving something new to learn when I was listless. Looking forward to the podcast. Thank you. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it too. It's getting closer. I can feel it. Azuk says, my only issue with the backpack was the subway. So on the subway, what you do with a backpack is, the best thing I recommend is actually turning it over to your front. Now, you might be tempted to put it on the ground. I don't recommend doing that because if it gets actually crowded, people will trip over it, or the subway floor is not always very clean, especially line 1. Some of the lines are less clean, and I wouldn't put anything on the floor besides the bottom of my shoes. So I don't recommend doing that. I would say wear it on your front. So if the subway gets really packed, then it's polite to wear the backpack on your front. Now, not everyone does this. I see a lot of Koreans just still wear it on their backs and they're like turning around and bumping into people. But if you want to be polite, move it over to your front. Besides that, though, you won't really have to take it off for anything. Azuk says, I've seen mostly clean bathrooms in Korea. If you're in Seoul only, in like really touristy places, your bathrooms are all going to be clean. They're all going to have soap and running water. But if you travel outside of the tourist places, even like a tiny bit, most bathrooms in Korea I found they're still cleaner than the US. They're still cleaner than the US most of the US bathrooms, but they're not usually that clean. They're usually very small and inadequate for what you're doing. Like they'll have a sink, but maybe the sink is broken or maybe the water runs onto the floor. I recommend carrying around, these days you don't need to carry around soap. That's not so much of an issue as it used to be, but I would carry around, what would I carry around? You might be able to get like the little paper soap packets. They kind of look like Listerine, like, you know, those little Listerine strips. They have little packets that are that big that hold strips of paper that are soap. And you might want to carry one of those in your backpack for a few bathrooms that might not have soap. But other than that, you should be okay. Uniqlo bag could be good. Okay. I'm going to have to bring gloves or something. What for, Nikki? Oh, germaphobe. I see your mention. If you're a germaphobe, like I'm not a germaphobe, so I can't give you the best answer for this. And then just get that soap. It's called 종이비누. You can buy it in Daiso in Korea. You don't have to buy this and prepare it because it's really cheap. Every Daiso sells 종이비누. You can also buy it in the US, but I know if you buy it on like Amazon, I bet you it's going to cost like $10 for a pack of 3, and you really only need one. It'll have like 20 sheets or something. Paper soap. And if you ever go to a bathroom that doesn't have soap, take 2 of those out, put them in your hands, and it'll become plenty of soap. The other thing I'll say, can we talk about this for a second? So let's talk about bathrooms a little bit more. I'm gonna tell you something that Koreans might be a bit ashamed of. Maybe they're not. Maybe they're proud of it. Okay, so here's your standard bathroom sink, right? Okay, so let's just say you're a germaphobe, and when you see a sink, all you see is like bacteria. You know, it's all dirty. It's not gonna be that dirty, but let's just say that's what your imagination is. So, and then you're gonna look for soap, and there are 2 types of soap you're gonna find. One is gonna be the nice soap dispensers. You know, it shows you how much is left. You can get a bunch of it. Cool. A lot of them have this, but subway stations and more like public restrooms that don't get serviced as often don't have these because these ones use a lot of soap. You have to keep refilling it, and the soap's kind of expensive. What they do have is instead a bar of soap that it's like screwed onto a pole, and the pole can kind of move around, but it's like it's a bar of soap that you have to do this to get the soap off of it. And I know a lot of foreigners who purposely will not want to touch this because they feel gross. doing that to soap, but they also feel gross because it's like the communal soap. Like, I don't want to touch the soap that everyone else is touching, like, you know, people with dirty hands. I've researched this before. I can tell you with high confidence that this is actually extremely safe to use. Bacteria does not have a good time on this. So it'll look kind of dirty, like you might still see like some pieces of dirt from the last person who used it. It is perfectly fine. And the soap is kind of soft. It's actually not that hard. So after you've used it once and you still feel like, oh, my hand, I still think my hands are dirty. The second time you use it, it'll be much cleaner because you've just wiped off and disposed of any of the dirt that was on the outside. It's very safe and clean to use. So I first didn't like using them because I thought, oh, that's nasty. I don't want to touch soap other people touch, until I realized you're touching soap that other people touched. It's not like something that's going to have bacteria on it. So yeah, feel free to use these. They're actually really good. And nowadays I prefer this over this because when you use these, sometimes the soap will be like overly watered down, or it's really common that they just don't have any soap. Like they haven't been refilled. And sometimes the soap that comes out of here is really strong and it'll just completely dry my hands out. So I prefer this one most of the time. Even if they have both options, I'll grab this one like that, get my hands wet, wash them off. I also recommend, if you're a germaphobe, do not dry your hands in the bathroom unless they have paper towels. And 9 out of 10 do not have any paper towels. It's just, they might have a drying machine. You know, one of those ones where you have the button. Those are filthy. I saw a Mythbusters episode where they tested them and they're just blowing dirty air right back onto your hands. I hate these. I've never used these. They also have the Dyson ones where you put your hand, exact same thing, just blowing all that dirty air back on your hands. Now, they're not that big of a deal, but I personally think it's a bit dirty. So I'm not a germaphobe level, but I don't like gross stuff. So I don't use those. What I do is I just flick my fingers in the bathroom and then walk out kind of doing this and, you know, wipe my hands a bunch of times until they're dry. So that's my technique. I have extreme germophobia. Okay. Yeah, soap on a stick. Nikki says, if there's something, then there are some specific bathrooms that are actually very clean in Korea. I could recommend, but I would have to know where you're going. But I do keep track in my head which bathrooms in which subway stations are clean and which ones are not. And there are some really clean bathrooms in major stations that are located away from where everyone gets on and off the subway that you wouldn't know, but they're like super clean sometimes. Let's see. If you want, though, I will say this, subway bathrooms are consistently a better experience than whatever bathroom that the restaurant you're at will have. Like no matter what restaurant or cafe or anywhere you're eating at or hanging out at, the subway ones are usually cleaner because they have a regular maintenance schedule. So you can see on the wall when you first enter the last person and the time. It'll always be like the same day or like the day right before, and like there will be multiple times. Whereas if you go into a restaurant, those are not clean because those are not managed by the restaurant. They're managed by the building management because the building will share the bathrooms. Each floor might have 1 or 2 sets sometimes, depending on how big it is, of bathrooms. And that's managed by the building management. And they might not check the bathrooms until like maybe once a week or at least every few days. And it's common that those wouldn't have toilet paper. They wouldn't even have soap or anything. And I've been to a lot of bathrooms before where you walk in and there's water, there's no soap, no paper towels, nothing. I'm like, I'm not going to use this. And sometimes no running water, like no soap, no water. I'm like, I just hold it, go to another one. But subways are always maintained really well. The people will go clean them frequently. So it's common that you'll walk into the bathroom and there's already a cleaning lady in there while you're there. So subways are actually your best bet for a public restroom. An exception would be if you really want a clean bathroom, just walk into a hotel. Any hotel will have public bathrooms and they're going to be really clean. And they're not going to say anything because they don't know if you're a resident there or not. They don't know if you're staying or not. Or just hold it till you go back to your hotel room. 주문하면
43년 뒤 도착. 일 와규 고로케 뭐가 다르길래.
Il is for representing Japan, 일본. It's common that countries will get shortened to using the hanja for the first syllable of them. So like Han for Hanguk, Il for Ilbon, Chung for Chungguk. Those are the really common ones. You'll also see hanja for the last name of a president. And yeah, those are the most common ones you'll see in like titles of news articles. So in that case, it's Japanese Wagyu Koroke. I guess it's just saying that they have too long of a wait list for people ordering it. Okay, let me see if I missed any other important comments. Nikki says, when will they make gay marriage in Korea? Is it really as conservative as they say? Also, is housing cheap? So let's first start with the second question, because I can answer that really quickly. Is housing cheap relative to the US? Yes. For small places. If you're happy with just a big enough space to live, then Korea is very affordable. You can get a room for a few $100 a month. Where could you find a room for a few $100 a month in the US, even if you shared with someone else? But if you're talking about space, it's much smaller. So if you wanted to get like a 500 square foot, 1,000 square foot apartment, like you might get in the US, you're going to pay way more than you would in the US for that exact same, anywhere you are, for that exact same size. So yeah, I would still say it's cheap though, because most people don't need, like if they're living by themselves, they don't need this gigantic house anyway. So you get away with paying less for less space. Your first question, is it really as conservative as they say? Keep in mind, I'm going to try to simplify what I'm going to say because I'm on YouTube right now. Maybe I could do like a stream on Patreon where I could just open up and we can talk about whatever. But I'll say the answer to your question is yes. Korean, generally, younger Koreans are more understanding these days, but what I've heard from most people I've asked this, the common perception of gays in Korea is still negative. Like, you could have a really like kind person, like, like some of my friends, like you can have like really nice, open, understanding people, but then you ask them, oh, what do you think about gays? And they'll be like, kind of gross. So it's still not quite where you might think it should be, despite them being like a leader in a lot of fields. A lot of things about Korea can still feel like they're stuck in the 50s, like for those sorts of mindsets. So yeah, I would still say it's quite conservative. It's in a different way conservative though. You get different, it's not the equivalent of a conservative American, right? But as far as that, yeah, they're still not quite as accepting of it. But it's not at the point where they would like not like you if you're gay. It's just more of they still have kind of like, a lot of people still have like a negative perception of it. Like they think, oh, it's kind of gross. I don't know about that. So as far as becoming legal, I can't tell you. But it's not going to be soon. There would need to be like a push for that. I haven't noticed any pushes for that lately, like people campaigning for making it legal or people protesting to make it legal, anything like that I haven't seen lately. So not in the near future. Will you be discriminated against for being gay though? No, which is good, right? I mean, are you like making out right in front of a person while you're walking into a restaurant? Like, would you do that in the US anyway? Like, no. So no, you're not really going to have to deal with like discrimination for that sort of thing. So I think it's not bad. It's not as open as you might hope. It's not as like accepting as you might hope, but it's also not as bad as you might think from what I just said. Is mean a way to say soap? No. Valeria asks a question. I'll take a couple more questions and then we're going to stop for today. Can I use toggle for giving a reason? 너무 피곤했다고 일찍 잠을 잤다. 엄마가 무거운 가방을 들었다고 도와달라. Okay, so you're kind of asking a real grammar form. Valeria, check out my Korean sentence connectors course. Part 2 of my because lesson. I think it's lesson 10. I was trying to think like, It's like lesson 9 or lesson 10. I do teach how to use the tago form as a because form, but it's not a general use because form. So to answer your question, yes, but also no, not the way you think. But I have a separate lesson about that in the sentence connectors course that I just released. How do Koreans traditionally play yunnori? So yunnori is like, it's a game where you throw these sticks up, and depending on what number they land, well, which side they land on, lets you determine how many moves forward you can go on a board. And your object is to get from one point on a board to the other point to win. And you're competing with another team who's also trying to get to the other side. Kind of like Candyland. It's actually, yeah, it's like Candyland or Chutes and Ladders type of game. You can like jump over each other. It's kind of fun, but I've only played it like a couple times. I think maybe like a handful of times at most. And you could go down to the store and just buy it right now, but you're not going to play it that much. I actually played it in Korea like once or twice. The other times I played it were just when other people like wanted to see if I knew how to play it. They're just like, oh, let's do an activity, like a Korean day activity sort of thing. It's not that commonly played though, but kids will play it a lot. So it's more of like a children game in Korea, but everyone knows about. Have you watched No Other Choice yet? No, I have not. Is that a show? If you tell me the Korean title, maybe I could see if I've heard it, but I don't know. Charlie asks, how long into studying Korean did you begin to understand most of what was being said around you? About after a year or so. Maybe like a year and a half. Somewhere between a year and a half it happened, I think, when I realized I can understand most of what people are saying. But again, that was living in Korea and studying Korean a lot and practicing Korean a lot every day. So if it takes you longer than a year and a half, well, yeah, you're doing a good job. If you're living in Korea, you have the same experience I did to do that, well, it doesn't take that long. But definitely not faster than a year. Definitely not faster than a year. All of Us Are Dead. Yeah, I have that game. Pinu. Yeah, Pinu is soap. Seje is like, yeah, Seje was like we soap or like detergent, I guess, but some sort of like cleaning chemical. Soap works. Nikki asks, also, are Koreans anti-trans? There's a more negative perception than there is of gays in Korea because people aren't so aware of it. But I will say this. Most people I talked with, their favorite character from Squid Game was the trans character, which, by the way, was actually just a regular straight dude playing, which I thought was amazing. I'm like, dude, that guy did such a good job. So the perception is changing, but from what I remember, even just about 10 or so years ago, it was very negative. Like they would look down on that, on trans people as being like, oh, like you're gross, that's, you know, perverted, like kind of like that sort of opinion. And it still is somewhat like that today. I can say that it's improving, but I can't say it's improved. But you would have to ask someone with experience on that, because I only have my general perceptions of what I've heard other people say. I don't actually know what that experience would be like. No other choice. 어쩔 수 없다. Oh, okay. No, I haven't heard of it. Still, I don't know. But you're saying, should it be fine that I was born female but look male and identify as male? Oh, I think actually in that way, if it's not really obvious, I don't think anyone's really going to notice. And again, are you going to be discriminated because of that? No. You're going to be not let into a restaurant because of that? No. Is someone going to say, oh, you can't use this bathroom because of that? No. I mean, unless it's clear you don't look like that, then some Koreans might be scared. Oh no, this person's in the wrong restroom. But otherwise, no, you're not really have to deal with that. And I think since it's that way, coming from female looking like a male, it should be less of an issue. Now, your friends may or may not discriminate based on that. Just make sure that they know, make sure you're honest with them. But yeah, as far as like, if anyone's worried, like, oh, are Koreans racist? Are Koreans, whatever? The answer is you're probably not going to be discriminated based on that, especially as a tourist. Living in Korea, you can have different experiences for certain things, but as a tourist, you're not really going to have to deal with any of that. Are you currently learning any other languages? Not right now. I haven't learned any other languages in a long time. Difference between maum and 심장. Well, 심장 is your literal heart. That's the organ, the name of the organ. It's the heart. So you could say like, oh, my heart hurts or whatever like that. But if you say 심장이 아파요, you literally mean like, oh, my heart hurts. 마음 is used to represent like, oh, that person has a nice heart. That heart. It also is used to represent your mind. It's like the heart of the person, like your soul, that sort of meaning. And you're going to use 마음 in any sort of idiomatic usage. 심장, again, is only physical, like the actual heart. So if you're saying like my heart is racing, you would use 심장 because you're actually talking about like your heart. And if you're saying like, oh, I feel so sad, like I feel or something, any of those idioms are going to use 마음. Like to make up your mind, in Korean they say make up your heart. Like 마음을 먹다, literally to eat your heart, is one way to say to decide. 마음 먹었어요, like I've decided, I've made up my mind. So it's mind and heart is what 마음 means, but not literally the heart, which would be 심장 every time. Knowing words by heart, 마음. Yeah, again, 심장 is only the literal, the actual physical heart. Okay, any other questions? See if I missed any before. I'm going to scroll up. Mikey asked, thoughts on moving to Korea long term? I think it's wonderful, but I would go short term first and see how you like it. Take a trip to Korea for like 2 weeks. Do a 2-week trip to Korea. Do all the stuff you want to do in Korea. Meet your friends. And then decide if you'd actually want to live there. Because it's one thing when you're like traveling all around and having fun and meeting people every single day. It's another one when you're just sitting alone by yourself in your apartment and you don't know anyone to meet and you don't have any place to go and you have class tonight, so you can't really go anywhere anyway. It's like it's another type of thing, a different experience that you're going to get from traveling in Korea versus living there. So I would just say try it out first, but probably it's going to be okay. Most people I talk with who live in Korea enjoy the experience, at least for like a year or two. They enjoy the experience. I've heard a lot of negative experiences, and those can come after living in Korea for a very long time and combined with not ever trying to learn the language. So if you want to enjoy your life in Korea more, learn Korean. Again, the negative experiences I've heard from people about being in Korea have all been people who didn't actually try to learn the language. Not about Korea, but any Halloween plans? Halloween, I'll probably go hang out with my my brother on Halloween. That's it. Just do trick-or-treating. Bring my kid to hang out with him and his family. Could you explain the word 바로? 바로 is right away. But if you have a sentence, I can translate it. Maybe there could be a more natural translation depending on the sentence. But yeah, literally means right away. But if you're talking about 바로, the actual word can have other translations too. But if you're just talking about the word 바로 by itself, like if you saw it in a sentence before something else, it just means right away. How to properly pronounce the consonants. So, Gideon, you don't want to equate them to romanization. You don't want to equate them to English letters. The best way is just to start doing listening practice. So you can do like podcasts, like Korean learning podcasts. You can read the script while the person's saying it and hear how they're saying it, because none of the letters in Hangul match up with English letters one to one. There's not a single letter in Korean that matches up with English. They're all a little bit different. So even like ones that seem like it should, like, oh, isn't the M an M? It's not. So I would recommend doing that. I wouldn't stress about it though. If you know that the kiok letter, that G or K, if you know that it's supposed to be like a G or a K, and you memorize that already, that's more than enough. You're good. You'll learn it, how to say it from that. But don't stress about it beyond there. None of them will match up to English. There are no rules for like, oh, it's this in this case and this and this. There's nothing like that for any of the letters. They're all said differently. What will you be for Halloween? I'm gonna be I'm not sure. I might be Shaggy from Scooby-Doo. Because I did that last year, so I might do that again. I'm kind of lazy to make a new costume. Polygon said, I got sick because we were struck by earthquakes. Wow. How'd you get sick from an earthquake? I guess stress? Maybe? Okay, I'll take one more question, then we'll stop for today. Charlie asks, what's your favorite Korean food? I've been missing tteokbokki. Yes, that is how you spell it. So much since leaving. Korean food is truly the best. My favorite Korean food, it's difficult to choose. I might pick sundae. So sundae is like the Korean blood sausage, and it's really good. It smells kind of bad if you've never smelled it before. It still doesn't have a great smell. But if you're used to the smell and you only talk about the taste and the texture, it's really good. You eat it with soup, so you can have like sundaekuk, which is like a hot soup that has sundae in it. That probably is my favorite Korean food. You get like a big bowl of rice, put the rice in there, add some like brined shrimp, add some gochujang, make it a little spicy. It's really good. Tteokbokki also is one of my top 10. I like Isaac Toast. It's just a franchise that makes toast. I like kalbi, of course. Korean ribs. Jjajangmyeon is another one of my favorites. I have that really often. Jjajangmyeon is like the black soybean noodles. They're a little bit sweet. Tangsuyuk also comes with jjajangmyeon, although tangsuyuk's it's really a Chinese food. And then, what else do I like? Naengmyeon's good. There's so much good Korean food, but I probably would pick sundae as my number one. Kinor says, oh, Polygon says you got dizzy. Okay. And Kinor says, what do you recommend for someone who's really good at understanding common words and is a high beginner, but can't push himself out of that level to intermediate? Kinor, I would recommend the same thing I would recommend to most people, and that is find content in Korean that is similar to or only slightly higher than your level. This is what's known as comprehensible input. That's just a term for something that you can kind of understand. Input is anything you're listening to or it could be reading, but usually it's used for listening resources. Anything that you can kind of consume that's not too difficult for you is comprehensible. And so don't go like looking for news programs and dramas, because those are going to be way above a beginner's level, but go for like Korean learning podcasts. Variety shows on TV are usually going to be okay if you're like high beginner, and listen to way more of those than you think you have to. So if you have like 4 hours in a day that's free, that you're doing other things, normally you'd be eating or relaxing, turn on a program like a podcast or whatever and just listen to it. Eat your snacks while you're watching that instead of another YouTube video, or instead of watching Twitch or something. Or a YouTube streamer. If there's a YouTube streamer you like who speaks normally, like at a regular speed, do as much of it as you can. Like more than you think you might need. And that will help you get not just out of the beginner level, but out of the intermediate level too. Although the intermediate level will take more than that to get out of, but at least out of the beginner level.
Okay, Hannah asks, I had a question about proper grammar order when listing people. Do you list other people first and then yourself? No, you would list yourself first. So like nawa or towa, like that, like me and then you list whoever else. So yeah, you would go first when you're listing. So yeah, it's interesting. It's the opposite from English, where we'd say like Charsu and Youngie and me. In Korean, you say me and Charsu and Youngie, like that. Charlie J, yeah, I have met a couple other people who also say it's their favorite food. I met some Koreans who say it's their favorite, and one of my other friends who's American, also it's his favorite food. Do Koreans have cider? Yes, they do. Is it a regular drink you're going to find in restaurants? No. But there are like surjip, so like alcohol shops. They have those in Korea, and you can buy pretty much anything there. Can foreigners work there if you have a work visa? Yes. If you are a tourist? No. If you are learning English, if you're teaching English there, you could be an English teacher. If you're teaching English, you can't have another job. If you are just going there to study Korean, no, you can't work there. And what if they find out you do, they might ban you from the country. Then they'll kick you out and you can't come back in for a while. So I wouldn't risk it, but I know a lot of people do that anyway. They go to Korea and then, not that I know people who do that, but I've heard a lot of people that have done that. Okay, let me check if I missed anything else. Shaggy, a purple fox. Okay, I think that's it. And then Z Gleary says, I've been learning Korean for 4 months and I learned my vocab from Anki and I'm starting to learn grammar now. Nice. And Polygon is saying, I've been procrastinating a lot. The last time I studied was in August. It's okay to take a break. You're not really going to lose that much from a short break, especially if you have a lot of Korean already under your belt. All right, that is the lesson today. Thank you everyone for coming. There is no live stream next Sunday because we just did 2 in a row, but there will be 2 more after that. And I will see you again next time. 그럼 다음에 또 봐.